Hello, and thank you. Unemployment. Better yet, let's start with employment. Employment allows us to collaborate. Employment allows us to connect. Employment provides us the opportunity to tackle and address social issues. Most importantly, employment allows us to pay our bills. We've got to put food on the table, and we all got to eat. Counter to that, there's unemployment. Unemployment contributes to exclusion. Unemployment negatively impacts mental health. And while unemployment negatively affects us all, especially we're still dealing with the pandemic, today I'm humbly in your presence to speak to you how unemployment greatly negatively affects some of the most marginalized people in our community. In this specific community I want to speak to you about today is people with physical and intellectual disabilities. Job seekers in this community struggle to obtain long-term and fulfilling gainful employment. Now, there's many different factors, but let's stick to three. This may be due to discrimination, exclusion, and negative preconceived notion from society. Now, the federal government of Canada and the provincial government of BC have allocated resources to programs that aim to support people with disabilities. And the allocation of these resources aim to cover home placement, community support, and of course, seeking gainful employment. These program agencies, they aim to practice customized employment. So I'll give a quick example what customized employment looks like. Let's use the 4 seasons. Let's start off with winter. Customized employment will look like a local business owner in the community employing someone to come and salt the sidewalks, shovel snow. Springtime, customized employment, individuals may be employed through community gardens, time of harvest. Summertime, customized employment, individuals may be employed for festivals and community engagements and gathering. And of course, living in BC, fall time, individuals could be employed to unclog leaves that clog our drain, which ultimately floods our local intersections. And also, these agencies employ individuals called employment specialists. And the role of employment specialists is to canvass the neighborhood to find employment for job seekers with disabilities. Now, the employment specialists, they canvass the neighborhood to distribute data to local business owners on the benefits and the importance of hiring job seekers with disability. And this is usually done via brochures and pamphlet drop-offs. In theory, this is all good. This is all good in theory. But in practice, we see a few setbacks. In my previous life, as I humbly stand in front of you, I was an employment specialist. And the tipping point for me, before I get there, I'd like to share 2 examples of what got me to the tipping point. I remember one day I was working, and my job description is connect with as many local businesses and canvass the neighborhood. So I went to ABC company. Spoke to the company owner, the local business owner, really, really nice man. I provided a brochure on the benefits of employing people with disability, job seekers with disability. As I turn, shake hands, as I turn or walk away, before I can even touch the sidewalk, in my peripheral vision, I see the local business owner dumping a hiring package in the recycling bin. Last scenario, still canvassing, go to another company. Now, there's a few individuals still ahead of me, so I have to wait. As I'm waiting in a waiting area, the recycling bin is right in front of me. And I see another hiring package for people with disability from another company, and it was just sitting on top of the recycling bin. So this was my tipping point, or the tipping moment, was once I started realizing the importance of language that we use for those that we advocate for. In that example, the recycling bin, the title page, in relation to font size, the term disability was bigger than people or person. In regards to font size, the term disability was bigger than community. And lastly, in regards to font size, the term disability was bigger than employment. So that was a tipping point on the language that we use. Now, here's a scenario. In this scenario, I need everyone to stay with me in this scenario. Okay, we have 3 people in this scenario, and these 3 people represent something. We get to that point. We have Johnny, we have Paul, and we have Simon. And this scenario takes place, let's take it back to the grassroots when we're young on a playground. So here's the scenario. Johnny is on a playground with Paul. Johnny disses Paul in front of Simon. It was an intentional diss, but a diss nonetheless. Now Johnny goes to Simon and says, "Hey Simon, I think you should be friends with Paul." Simon is confused. Didn't Johnny just diss Paul in front of Simon? So, in that analogy scenario, Johnny represents my old job, an employment specialist or the organizations. Paul represents the job seeker with disability. Simon represents the local business owner. And the playground represents the job market. So further to that, as we get to that point in relation to the job market, these programs and organizations are well-meaning. They do mean well in order to help people. But however, they are unintentionally dissing those that they support. Now, they're discouraging business owners to hire disabled people, unconsciously directing them in the direction of discrimination, exclusion, and negative stereotypes. So, let's make this a tipping point. What it is that we define and restructure the people and the name that we classify people. These job seekers are not disabled. Sure, they have setbacks, just like we all have setbacks. Just like you and I have abilities, they too have abilities. So the tipping point moving forward, can we please urge that individuals, job seekers with disability, can we look at them in another light as job seekers, individuals with all abilities? Would it shock you to learn that job seekers with all abilities have a spending power of over $55 billion? And that's just in Canada alone? How would you feel if I were to tell you that out of all of those businesses, 87% of the general public support businesses that actually employ or job seekers, individuals with all ability? Now, as a tipping goes, if we watch the language and mind the language that we use to advocate those that we are trying to empower, we cannot minimize them by the language that we use. So, numbers such as $55 billion with the 87% public participation, if we're to simply implement this, I am very confident, as I humbly stand in your presence, that $55 billion could potentially touch $60 billion to mid-60s. That 87% of public support, I greatly urge, can touch in the 90s into the mid-90s. I say that to say this. Rather it's capitalism, rather it's just social support, rather it's just inclusion. This is not charity, ladies and gentlemen. This is great business. Thank you all very much.